Hello again, everyone. It's good to see you again. Thanks for clicking on this video. I hope that the content here is something that you enjoy. You look behind me, I have my YouTube channel set up, so please like and subscribe. You can see the content as it comes out. Today's content is going to be on La Coruna, Spain. La Coruna pronounced in Spanish, and then the Galician pronunciation is A Coruña, so you might see it one way or the other, the la or the ah. But if you didn't see last week's video, I did one on the overall likes and dislikes of the Norwegian cruise that we took that sailed from Southampton, England to Barcelona, Spain. It was a 10-day cruise, and I talked all about what we liked and disliked about that cruise. It's really just more of an overall highlight of that cruise. Didn't go into a lot of detail, but as promised, I said that I would put a video out, maybe one a week, about each of the port stops that we took. And so this is one of those, La Coruna. That was actually our first port stop. So the thing about this port stop is it was a last minute itinerary change. Again, my video explained that last week. We were supposed to stop in Le Havre, France, and because of port strikes, we weren't able to do that. And so it was changed to La Coruna. And so that's where we ended up stopping on our first port stop. And me, I like to, take the time to really research the place that we're stopping, to understand all the things to do. And I didn't really get much of a chance to do that. Also, the weather was really bad that day. So this video should be pretty short. I'm not going to have a whole lot of detail really to give on this one. The others, I promise, will have a lot more detail, have a lot more things to talk about because we did a lot more at those stops. But regardless, I'm still going to go through the likes and dislikes and tell you a little bit about this port stop. La Coruna is on the northwest side of Spain, and sun rises there at least this time of year around 7 a.m. and it has a long day. The sun doesn't set until around 10 p.m. or so. And the weather typically ranges around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, in the 60s, maybe 18 degrees Celsius. The day that we were there, unfortunately, it was pretty bad weather. It was, cool. It was probably in the upper 50s, maybe right at 60 degrees, very windy, very rainy. So, really just wasn't a good day to get out and explore. The Freestyle Daily, which is the little newsletter / itinerary for the day that the cruise line puts out. When we looked at that the night before we docked at La Coruna, we were reading up on La Coruna a little bit, and it talked about, some of the things to do there. One of the things it talked about was a Roman lighthouse named the Tower of Hercules. And so this is listed as the oldest operating Roman lighthouse in the world. And so we thought that might be something kind of cool to check out. Also, an opportunity to take tours or take a ride to Santiago de Compostela. And if you've never heard of that, it's actually a Christian pilgrimage site. There's only 3 in the world, and that's been designated as Christian pilgrimage sites, and so this is one of them. In the cathedral there, it's the supposed burial place of St. James. So if you know the Bible and you know Christianity, you know about St. James, then this is supposedly where St. James has remains. So a little bit about our trip to the Tower of Hercules. Again, it was very rainy, very wet day. The wind was very windy. So when we got off the boat, we saw taxis there, and we took those, and we took a taxi to the Tower of Hercules. From the dock to the tower, it was only about a 15-minute ride, maybe even less than that, and taxis were readily available waiting on us when we got there. The cost was, I think it was less than 10 euros one way, so it wasn't very expensive for me, my wife, and my son. One of the things that we learned when we got there, we didn't know, is that they require timed tickets to go to the Tower of Hercules. Fortunately, we were able to get times that were within an hour of when we arrived, so we bought the tickets. Really wasn't much to do at that, I call it a visitor center, not really sure, just like a ticket booth. They did have a little small museum, and so we went in there, but that was maybe, unless you read everything on the walls, that's maybe a 10-15 minute stop to kind of walk through that museum. But we were at least in the dry and out of the cold, and were able to warm up a little little bit. But they also told us, there's cafes nearby. There was a soccer field and there was a soccer game going on. This is like maybe high school soccer. So we decided to do that. We spent that 45 minutes kind of walking around. We went into one of the little local cafes, got a coffee, a little snack, and then we walked over to where the soccer field was. There was another cafe there, and it was, had full glass that was facing out to the soccer field. So we watched a little high school soccer, which was kind of neat, just sort of a local thing to do. When it was our time, we went back. We walked up to the Tower of Hercules and explored that. We probably spent maybe a total of 45 minutes or so, maybe close to an hour in the Tower of Hercules. Again, it's a pretty neat thing to see. It's been restored. It's been significantly restored since in the 1700s, and so you can see what it would have looked like originally, and then what it looked like after the restoration. So it's not exactly the same thing as when the Romans built it, but you can see some of the evidence and some of the things that the Romans built, especially in the foundation. When you first walk into the tower, you're kind of underneath a lot of the tower, and you can see the foundation, and it's pretty neat to see. But after that, then we walked back down, grabbed a taxi pretty quickly, got back to the boat. We wanted to, explore the town a little bit, but the weather was just so bad, and it was so windy that we decided to get back on the boat. So probably spent a full 3 hours off the boat that day with the taxi ride, the waiting on our time tickets, exploring the Tower of Hercules, and then the ride back. So now to get into some things that we liked and some things that we disliked. Again, not a whole lot. Only got 3 likes and a couple of dislikes. Just again, because we were in this port for such a short period of time, we really weren't prepared, and the weather was just so bad. But one of the things we liked was the availability of taxis. And that seems like kind of a small thing, but as you'll find out in some future videos, we had some chaos in some of our port stops due to the availability of taxis. So we learned that, that we should be appreciative of how easy it was to grab a taxi in La Coruna. Part of that, I'm sure, is because La Coruna it hasn't turned into a huge tourist town yet. It's not like some of the other port stops where there were multiple boats. We were the only boat there. It was very rainy. I'm sure a lot of people didn't get off. Several people on our boat, they didn't even really get off much at all. They were so disappointed about not stopping at Le Havre. So I'm sure that contributed a little bit to how available those taxis were. But that particular day, there were plenty of taxis. We quickly grabbed one, and the cost of the taxi, just overall, it was a nice, easy ride to the Tower of Hercules and back, and we didn't have any issues with that. So that was one of the things that we liked. Number 2 is the Tower of Hercules. So, I talked about it a little bit. The weather made it a little bit less pleasant than I think what it could be. If you're there on a nice day, the coastline view, when you're walking up to the Tower of Hercules and you look over to your right, the whole coastline is there, and it's beautiful. Even in bad weather, it was beautiful. I could imagine on a 65, 70 degree day and sunny, walking up and that view, and probably like exploring the grounds a little bit, it would be even that much better. But we enjoyed it. It was a significant piece of history. It's kind of amazing to see something that is just that old. It was built so long ago, and really how impressive it is to see something like that was built, 800 years ago or something. So I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a good thing to see, and I think you would enjoy getting to explore that even on a nicer weather day. And then the third thing was the overall kind of atmosphere of La Coruna. So La Coruna was not like some of our other port stops where there was a lot of touristy type stuff, right? It just had more of an authentic feel to it, right? So I think that made it a little bit special. And it was too bad that we didn't get a chance to really go into town and explore a little bit more. But so many places that you stop, there's so many tourist traps, you're you're getting people coming up to you wanting you to buy this, go do this, try this. And La Coruna people just seem to be going about their daily business. It gave me an appreciation of kind of a more authentic style little town to visit in Spain. So to get into a couple of things that we disliked, I guess I would have to say one of the things was the weather, unfortunately. Fair or not, now I have went back and looked off and on at other days in La Coruna and the weather there, and I think we just had bad luck that day. But it was our day. It was our day in the port. This was something that we disliked that day we were there. Was the weather was really bad. And I think in other places with bad weather, I think there's still some things that we could have done or we could have experienced. At La Coruna, maybe not as much. It was more of a place that we needed to explore, and sometimes exploring in bad weather just isn't it just doesn't make for a good day. So for us, for that day in that port, the weather was not good, and it contributed to something that we disliked that day. But again, other days that I've looked, it's been in the 60s, in the 70s, it's been sunny, which looks and sounds perfect to me. So I think maybe it just happened to be a bad day for us. The second thing was the distance to everything from the port. And I'm not going to say it was, a significant difference, but there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity really to walk to some of these sites or some of these recommendations that Norwegian had provided in their itinerary. So everything was maybe a 10 to 15 minute taxi ride, and if you walked it, it was going to be somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour. Now, if you're in good shape and you like to walk and you've got the time, then it may be great. Actually, the walk from the port to the Tower of Hercules, it would probably take you 45 or 50 minutes to walk, but it's by the coastline and it was well paved and looked like it might be a neat walk. Again, if you had plenty of time and if the weather was right. So for some, it may be great, but for some of people who maybe aren't, maybe have a disability or just can't walk that far, then it would definitely, you're going to have to find a ride to get to those places. That's our likes and our dislikes at La Coruna. So an overall rating, I'd have to rate La Coruna right in the middle on a scale of 1 to 10, a 5. Just because, again, we were only off the boat 3 hours. We didn't really get a whole lot of opportunity to explore, so it's not really fair to rate it less than that. But again, I can't really rate it any higher based off what we experienced. So I'd put that one at a 5. And, I think there's a lot more opportunity there. And hopefully if you're going to La Coruna, you get a nice, pretty day and you can get a chance to explore more than we were able to. So if you have been to La Coruna and you have some likes and some dislikes of your own, then leave those in the comment below. Let's hear about them. Let's see what you liked about La Coruna and maybe what you didn't like. I'm sure you've got a lot more to offer than what I was able to provide. So let's hear what those are. Also attached in the video here is the link to my earlier video, as I mentioned before, about the overall cruise that we took from Southampton to Barcelona. 10-day cruise, Norwegian. We talked about things we liked. We talked about things that we didn't like. And then we give an overall rating of that cruise. Also talked about all the different port stops, which I'm going to be doing a video on each one of those. So hopefully next week I'll have my next video out, and the next one will be our port stop in Vigo, and we did a tour to Bayonne. So listen about that. It was it was a really good trip. We had a good time there. We got a lot of likes and dislikes, and I've got an overall rating for that one as well. So like and subscribe to my channel, and when this video comes out, you can catch it and many more that's on its way. So again, thank you and have a blessed day.